All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Sorry about the little hiatus we took last week, but life got in the way. We gotta do our paying jobs. And then this is obviously something we do for fun. So we had to take a little bit of a break, but we're back. Thank you guys for the support we saw from the last video. We've been seeing some people start watching the older videos, the old Who Dats. For those of you who have been here a while, you know what that series was. For those people that are new, maybe came in during the season, some older videos we were doing during the off season, just talking about all the newer players, guys like Danny Stutzman, Cody Jackson, Mario Williams, all the new freshmen that are on the team. Did
Go
dedicated
Caleb
videos
Williams.
on, and obviously Caleb Williams dedicated videos on those guys, talking about what we expected from them. Obviously, we were wrong on some of it because the expectations we had of some of the players, were a little different at the time that when we recorded, but it's good to see that they're doing better than what we predicted. So if you're interested, go back, watch those. But before we get into anything, make sure you're hitting that like button, hit the subscribe button real quick before we start going into anything further. I'm in real quick before we do get into this game recap. Gentry Williams, a Tulsa product from Booker T. Washington, is going to announce his commitment tomorrow or today, 2:45 p.m. Central Time. So I believe it's going to be on CBS Sports
Yeah, probably,
HQ.
yeah, always. And we seem
Most
to
of
be
them
doing
are.
good on CBS Sports HQ. So
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I'm encouraged. I think there's a good chance that he ends up being a Sooner today.
Yeah, I think if you're in Tulsa, you're able to go in person if that's something you want to do. It is, I believe, it's just going to be at his high school, in
Yeah,
the field
field house or
house,
something. Yeah, yeah.
Nathan E. something field house. Just look at Booker T. Washington or go on his Twitter page, and you'll see where he mentions where the commitment's going to be. So it'll be awesome. Hopefully, it's a good one for Oklahoma again after we picked up a big commitment from great Gabriel Brownlow Dindy. It would be great to get another guy that could be a big piece to the defense moving forward. To remind you guys, his top four are USC, Mizzou, Florida, and Oklahoma. A lot of crystal balls have been coming in for Oklahoma on him, so hopefully they're all right. But we'll see what happens tomorrow because everything does change in recruiting, and obviously these are 17, 18-year-old kids, so we don't ever know what they're actually thinking. All right. So let's get into it. Oklahoma versus Texas Christian at Norman. Big home game after the amazing comeback versus Texas and Caleb Williams' first start as the QB1 for the Sooners in Norman. Obviously, I think everyone here has seen the video of the crowd roaring whenever he was announced as a starter in the pregame video. I think obviously it was frustrating thinking back to the beginning of the season when we had some fans yell, "We want Caleb," but obviously he's a QB now and everyone loves him. This dude seems to be able to do no wrong right now. Obviously, not wanting to jinx this kid, but he did some amazing stuff yesterday. The offense looked like what we expected out of the
Yeah.
offense to start the
I think we
season
had
and what we've
500
seen.
yards total offense, and all he did in his first start was set a OU freshman uh, an OU freshman passing touchdown record with four, and he should have had more. If we'll dive into that a little later, but he should have had more than four touchdown passes.
And I believe he also set an OU just touchdown record for a first start from
With five total.
anyone with five total.
Yeah.
Four passing, one rushing. Obviously, great player, but let's get into it. We want if you want, we can start with Caleb Williams. This dude looked absolutely
We have to
amazing. He
start with
had
Caleb. Yeah.
full control of that offense, and I think what's helping is obviously Kennedy Brooks kind of really coming into the light, showing that he is one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the country. I think at this point, with the games that he's put together so far back to back, obviously it's only two games, but he's starting to look better than the guy down in Austin, who a lot of people think is the best running back in college football, in Bijan Robinson. Kennedy Brooks is giving him a run for his money. Obviously, I think the game plans are a little different, so talent wise, they're probably even, but Kennedy's having an amazing last two games, and Caleb is kind of going along for the ride and showing what he can do with his wide receivers.
He's unbelievable. Like that's like if there's one word to describe that kid, and obviously we're big supporters of Spencer Rattler on the show, and I still feel for him, but Caleb Williams is unbelievable. Like that, obviously the 4 touchdown passes. Only had 5 incomplete passes through a whole game, and two of them off the top of my head were at least drops. He threw a beautiful deep ball to Mike Woods that should have been touchdown 5, dropped, and then he threw a routine pass to Austin Stogner in the goal line that should have been a touchdown. Obviously, he dropped a pretty easy one. And then his touchdown run, it wasn't like a quarterback sneak. You know what I mean? He 45 yards. It was just about making people miss. He's unreal.
Yeah, no, this dude is amazing, and something that they highlighted in the commentary with Kirk Herbstreit is to start the game. He was having a lot of success with the deep ball. Our receivers were able to find space and create space with the guys that were covering him. He was throwing him a little short. They were catchable, but they weren't a pass that you'd be like, wow, this dude's got an amazing deep ball, at least to start the game. I think that just has to do with he's still getting comfortable with his receivers. Obviously, I'm sure he had taken snaps with the first team, but now it's just him, and he's still working on it. As the game went on, he started to really do better at hitting the deep ball. Like you said, the drop pass was a drop pass. It wasn't an overthrow by Mike Woods, and I think it's gonna, that connection between him and Woods is going to improve, as well as Mims. It seems like those two already have a great connection. And the other wide receiver that probably had the best game of his career, and definitely the best game for a receiver in this game, was Jaden Hazelwood. This guy came out of high school. Obviously, we all believed he was going to be the next great receiver for Oklahoma.
Want to hear a
And
crazy stat about Hazelwood? Just in this, I heard it on the radio and I had to look it up, but it's true. That was Jaden Hazelwood's. He had 3 career touchdowns going into that game. Obviously, he had 3 Saturday. It was awesome. He looked really good. Caleb was finding him, making they were making stuff happen. That was his first career touchdown against an FBS team. The other 3 had come against, FCS. South Dakota State. He had one. I think he scored against Western Carolina. Yeah, all FCS teams. That's his first against an FBS team, which is unbelievable for a guy that has that much talent and rate as high as he is. But clearly there seems to be some sort of connection there with Caleb Williams, so we'll see how that develops going forward.
yeah, and I think for Hazelwood, it was, he was just hit with a bad luck and then injury bug to start his sooner career. So
it hurt it, yeah.
Now he's healthy. He's performing well. Hopefully everything continues the way it's going. It seems like he's become Caleb's favorite target. It was just
at
one
least
game
towards that goal line area, because
in the red zone.
As soon as we got in the red zone, he was looking his way. Throw on the goal line, and then the crossing pattern where he beat the corner like a drum. I think it was one-on-one coverage. He just he roasted him. Good ball from Caleb too. If nothing else, he seems to be the red zone guy.
Definitely. And to go back to what I mentioned, when we started talking about the offenses, I know I already touched on it, but Kennedy Brooks is, we were harping on it to start whenever the offense was struggling. We have to give Kennedy the ball, make him the bell cow back. And now that Lincoln is doing that in the running game, everything is opening up. We're seeing success with the deep ball. There's plenty of room, and the offensive line looks way better now because we're keeping the defense guessing.
There was a lot of times Caleb had a clean pocket, and I agree with you on that all Kennedy Brooks starts all of that. And like you said, we mentioned that in our Kansas State preview, is give Kennedy Brooks the ball 20 times a game, good things are going to happen. And he went over 100 again this week. He's so efficient. I've never seen a guy more. He doesn't do anything flashy. He's not fancy. He's just patient. He runs the ball smart and hard, and he gets 6 yards to carry. It seems like 6-7 yards every time he touches the ball.
Oh yeah, and he'll probably be. I was thinking about it earlier today, watching the Chargers and Ravens game. He's probably going to be a Raven just because those guys in Baltimore love the Sooners and the offensive talent that comes out of Oklahoma. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him sometime in the second round to help them with the running game, because those guys need a stable of running backs. And this dude kind of plays like Le'Veon Bell did back in his prime.
Yeah, no,
super patient
comparison.
to find the hole. So hopefully, obviously there's a long season ahead, and what happens in his NFL career is still to be seen. But this dude's having an amazing the last two games, and I think it's going to continue through conference play. Let's go over to the defense now. So to be completely honest with you guys, and I think most of you will agree, the defense had a not so great showing, especially in the passing game. TCU's quarterback went 20 for 30, 346 yards and 4 touchdowns of his own, and was
And it was
able to
one
run for
guy who was
45 yards.
specifically beating us. Quentin Johnston, I think is his name for TCU, number
Mm-hmm.
one, big 6'4" receiver. He really took advantage of our depleted secondary. I mean, if you take away his numbers alone, which obviously you can, he did what he did. But he by himself had 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. So without that guy, Max Duggan doesn't have as great numbers as he does. But that's a dumb hypothetical. I mean, at the end of the day, he did. That's what happened. But that is as encouraging as everything looked on offense. I mean, anytime you have 525 yards, you score 52 points, and that's with leaving points on the board. So with the drop touchdowns from Woods and Stogner, obviously that's leaving points on the board. They still managed 525 yards of total offense, 52 points. Obviously, that's money. Then you look at defensively. I think this is one of the games Alex Grinch is going to look on and be like, man, we did not play up to our standard here, because we gave up 519 yards of total offense. Now, to the defense's credit, that's only a 6-yard difference in total yards of offense. So they were right there with us with their 519. I think our defense did a better job of their defense of once they got close, red zone area, we limited them to way less touchdowns and made them settle for 3 or, stuff like that. Got a couple 4th down stops down there. That's really the difference between our defense and their defense in that game is we took far more advantage of our opportunities in the scoring area than they did.
Yeah, definitely. And something that is encouraging is still our running defense. That defensive line is doing their job. Main Perion Winfrey, IT as having Isaiah Koback is big for stopping the run.
When Redmond comes back,
it's going to be a big difference once we have that rotation of 4-back. But we didn't allow one individual over 60 yards. As a team, TCU did go for 183. But I think what ended up happening there was one, Duggan, however you pronounce his last name. He has the ability to scramble out of the backfield, and obviously playing quarterbacks like that, it's going to make it tough to stop the run and keep them to a low rushing yards total. But their main running back, since as their biggest weapon on the offense was hurt, and Zach Evans had 15 attempts for 55 yards. His longest run being 9 yards, and then their backup who came in, I think because Miller was battling a small injury there for a couple quarters, had 7 carries for 57 yards. So, they did a good job at stopping the run. Not the best that they've done.
7 for 57 is not encouraging, but the 15 for 55 is pretty good. And then going back to the D-line, for the most part, they're there. But the thing that's concerning to me is they had 0 sacks in this game. And that's not to say that, they did hit home on some pressures where, I thought maybe we could get a sack here. But as you mentioned, Duggan's ability kind of to escape the pocket kind of hurt us a little bit in that game. And that's something that we need to fix up, shore up when we play. Any team we're going to play in the playoff, if we get there, is going to have a good offensive line. Their quarterback's not going to be a statue. I'm not going to say like, a Caleb Williams-esque running ability, but they're not a statue. The D-line, and also I think that kind of hurt us so much in the passing game is it seemed like it felt like a lot of times on the big ones they hit home on that Duggan felt like 45 minutes in the pocket. And that anytime you have that much time, you're going to find somebody. Anybody playing at this level of college football is too talented to leave 45 minutes of time in the backfield.
Yeah, 100%. The good thing about, so hold on, let me step back here. So you mentioned it with our passing defense, bad, but we do have a very beat up secondary. DTY still not back. Woody Washington still not back. DJ got hurt, a concussion in the first quarter. So we were moving around, a lot of shifting back there. 3 in the
secondary right there who are prominent starters for us that aren't playing right now. And then obviously Jalen Redmond hurts because he's a huge part of that D line, and he's been out for a while. So we'll give the defense a little bit of credit because, they are playing very shorthanded. You got Billy Bowman out there playing on the outside, which is not where that's not what he's used to playing, where he wants to be, I don't think. I think he wants to play in that slot more. But, at the end of the day, 519 yards is 519. You got to find a way to not allow that. And the defense did some boneheaded stuff, too. Like Deshaun White, there's absolutely zero reason on this planet in which you should be extending your arms from the 5-yard line. Do you have, although he acknowledged it too, I think, that he made a mistake on that. Did you see his tweet after the game?
Remind me of it. I think I did, but
it was funny. He tweeted his Madden ratings essentially. He's like agility 93, 12. Ball security 12, and so obviously it's good to see he's fully aware that he made just a bonehead play, but he's poking fun at himself. Obviously it worked out because that at that point in time in the game, even with the fumble out of the touchback, we were still feeling pretty good. Like we're probably going to win this game still, but that's the kind of stuff you can't do in a playoff game. If the game's 17-17, that there's no excuse to fumble the ball again. Especially just you can't. There's not a person alive who can extend from the 5-yard line like that. Yeah. You don't have extendo arms, bud. But either way, you appreciate the effort, him wanting to score, but you got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, and to go a little further back in that play sequence, that strip by Latrell McCutcheon was big time. Fantastic. At that point, our defense wasn't doing great, and obviously he stepped up. He created a turnover, and he did what he had to do. He was battling that with the offensive player to get that ball out.
I want to say he's done that twice now. I think he also did it. He did it in the Kansas State game or Texas game. I can't really remember, but they recovered. The other team recovered. It was either K-State or Texas where he ripped it. He came in and did the same thing. He seems that he might have that knack just to go and get the ball out.
Let me double check here. So yeah, you're right. He has 2 forced fumbles.
Yeah, he did it. I can see the play was a running back, but I can't remember if it's Kansas State or Texas, but he did the same thing. Where he went in there and just ripped it out.
Yeah, that dude, he's got a nose for the ball. So hopefully, I think. So when I was going on Twitter during commercial breaks watching the game, Bowman wasn't having his best game, but I think that was in part to having to be moved around so much with the injuries that were happening in the secondary. Obviously didn't play to his favor. So, and people were trying to say he's a freshman, he's going to make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But this dude's very talented. I don't think the mistakes were because he was a freshman. I think it was just because he was moved around. If this happened his junior year, hopefully it wouldn't happen. The mistakes aren't as glaring, but you're not going to win every play as a defensive back. You're not going to win every play as a defensive player.
And plus, I think I truly think he's more of a nickel corner anyway. Like that's where he wants to be anyway. And I've never played football of it, but I think there's a huge difference in going one-on-one on the outside versus playing the slot receivers. The routes are different. It's a different game.
Yeah, you got to worry about the boundary. You got to make sure you know where that boundary is, because that essentially that's your second. That's your backup, making sure that you're pinning the guy and putting him in a position where he's got a Tony toe drag or force him out. So very different. You're 100% right. So hopefully, we hear some good news about DJ Graham.
And luckily for this defense is, obviously we were talking about, especially in the secondary, how depleted it is with 3 starters not playing. But at the same, it could not be a better time to get Kansas. But we'll talk about that, in our preview. But it's a great week to catch Kansas.
We can touch on it real quick. Really, not just Kansas, but the next few weeks we've got Kansas, Texas Tech, and then finally our bye week. So. Not to say that they're easy games, because I think Kansas, they're Kansas, but Texas Tech could, they could put up a little bit of a fight. So there's definitely an advantage in that we don't have tough opponents. But after that, if we don't have some of those big guys back like Redmond and Woody and DJ, so that Billy can move back in that slot position, then we might be in a position to potentially lose one, because we have I think it's Baylor, Iowa State, then Oklahoma State, if I remember that correctly. Yep. So Baylor's having a great season so far. Iowa State not as great as last year, but
Still a
they're
two-loss
still
team
good.
though. They're I
Yeah.
mean they're no slouch, but yeah, I think it's gonna be important for this team to get to the bye week 9-0, take care of business in the games you're supposed to, and then that bye week's gonna be just very nice. Be awesome to see all the guys come back.
Yep. Yep. Hopefully that bye week is just the time where they get to rest. They get to, that honestly, I think that this year with where the team is headed and how they're looking now with Caleb at the helm, that bye week is at the perfect time.
Oh yeah,
Towards the end of the
absolutely.
season, kind of keep they're going to be more fresh than if we had an early bye week, going into the stretch, the back end of the schedule, Big 12 championship, and then playoffs at the
Yeah.
end of the year. So,
And if I'm Lincoln Riley, there's no chance I'm playing. And I don't care if Delaney Attorney yells in my office demanding to play Saturday against Kansas, or same thing with Woody Watch, whoever. DJ Graham says, "I'm back, I'm fine." No, you're sitting. We're not sitting you out against Kansas. Like, I'm sorry. No,
yeah.
it's not it.
It's also not worth putting him in a situation to get them hurt again, because then you
Yeah.
have to go back home and you probably want to just go have those guys have that game back in Norman, with the crowd behind them rather than the high school level crowd in Lawrence. But anyways, we'll touch on that in the preview over the next couple of days. But yeah, overall amazing game versus TCU. Obviously, there's still some things to clean up on the offensive side. Just better the connection's going to grow. Not really something that can be forced, but the connection between Caleb and all of his receivers, not just Jaden
I think if
and
we can keep
Marvin.
scoring like that, and I mean that's an Oklahoma offense we're used to seeing, and it's so awesome to see it against TCU, who's historically a pretty, I mean they're not a world beater on defense, but they're usually pretty stout, pretty strong defensively. It was awesome to see Caleb able to lead the team to do what we did, and obviously I think we expect that to continue, especially against Kansas.
Yeah, for sure. So, two questions for you before we wrap it up today. One, who are your key players for one on each side of the ball? And second question is, do you feel like this team is now prepared to beat a team like Georgia or Alabama once we hit the playoffs at how they're doing now?
Offensively, it's gonna go back to Kennedy Brooks or Caleb Williams, because I don't know who really to point it at. I think Caleb Williams is obviously unbelievable as a freak athlete. I think he's better than Spencer Rattler at this point. I think there's no doubt in Lincoln Riley's head who the guy is going forward. I'll go Caleb, because I don't know that Spencer is going to do that, even with Kennedy Brooks popping off the way he is now. I'm not saying that we lose with Spencer in the game, but I think Caleb Williams is a freak. Very, very, very excited to see what he does the rest of the season. Defensively, this is a tough game for the defense all around. We can say Latrell forcing that fumble is a big play. Deshaun White making some plays as a tackler. Danny Stutzman is always flying around the field making tackles. For those guys. And the other question, that's a big one. I think offensively we give both those teams everything they want. And I know Georgia has that great defense that everybody talks about, but to this point of the season, they haven't played Alabama. They haven't played Bryce Young. They'll see him in the SEC title game. But they have not seen a guy with what I think Caleb Williams is. He's special. I think Caleb Williams is going to be able to put 30 on almost anybody, especially if Kennedy Brooks can keep running the ball and the offensive line keep protecting. Caleb Williams is going to hang with him. So it comes down to how much different does the defense look at full strength?
Yeah, I agree. I think so. To give my answers for the stars of the game, I'm going to give the offense to Kennedy Brooks. I just don't think that this offense is rolling without him and how he's performed over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Caleb Williams did an amazing job, like you said. Like, it's hard to, it is a kind of 1A, 1B situation, but I'm just going to give it to Kennedy because it seems like with his success comes the whole offense success. And we mentioned it, starting the season when we were doing preseason stuff like this. The media and like national media likes to talk about how Lincoln Riley just knows how to dial up his plays for his quarterbacks, and making sure that the wide receivers are getting you're getting the ball and whatnot. But this defense is predicated on the run, and when we couldn't run the ball, even last year, we couldn't run the ball during those 2 losses last year, and then Ramondre came back and was able to just absolutely destroy.
Change the offense. Absolutely, yeah.
So Kennedy doing that for us this year. Now for the defensive side, I'm going to go with Perion. That every time there was a running play down the middle, he wasn't letting anyone pass him. Like he had at least one hand, if not both, on the runner. So I think that's key. I think he's going to keep doing that, and hopefully he can get a couple get a couple sacks next game. But that guy's going to be key, and hopefully nothing happens to him versus a not so great Kansas team. But to answer the second question, I think, like you said, the key is going to be, well, one, Georgia hasn't played any great offense to this point in the season. So I think we have a chance against Georgia. Their defense is great, but we have just as good, if not a better offense than what their defense has, could potentially defend. Now, the offense or the defense, like you said, playing a team against Georgia, it's going to be, how is our defense looking, like injury wise by that time? I would feel a lot more comfortable if we got Alabama in the first round. I think we would handle Alabama.
The way it is right now, I wish we could end the season right now, current AP poll, because have you seen it, what it looks like right now?
So we would get Cincinnati.
That would be ideal.
I think Cincinnati is a lot better than you're giving them credit for. Now, I don't think they're going to beat us, but they're going to keep it a close game. I mean, last year their bowl game was against Georgia, who essentially was this team that they're having now, and they almost won. Georgia had to pull it out at the end. Now, this Georgia team has obviously improved from the end of the season last year, but if we had to play Cincinnati in the playoffs, I wouldn't say it's going to be a cakewalk unless something happens. And we have all our defensive players back, because Desmond Ridder is that guy. He's going to be a Heisman finalist more than likely at this rate.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but I promise you, I'd want that draw first over any of the other schools, and then deal with Bama or Georgia in the title game. That's an ideal scenario. But at the end of the day, right now we're 7-0. Got to get to 8-0, and do you know the last time we were 7-0? I truly don't, and it's a good feeling.
I mean, we haven't lost a game in over a year, so it has been a while since we were 7-0. I don't think we've had an undefeated season.
Because even in 2017, when we should have won the national title, we had that hiccup against Iowa State.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have to look into it. But I can't remember the last time we had an undefeated season. So
7-0.
This is going.
Good.
This, like we said at the beginning, we've been saying it. This is the year we win a national championship. Obviously, we thought it was going to be with Spencer Rattler. Things have changed. This team is going to win a national championship because of Kennedy Brooks and Caleb Williams. Those are the guys. They're the reason we're going to win one and go undefeated for a perfect season and raising the trophy at the end of the year.
Oh, I hope so, bud. I hope so. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, all right. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment. Let us know who you think were the key players to this game and us winning by so much. And what you think. Do you think we can take on Alabama? Would you want to rather see Cincinnati in the first round of the playoffs? Give us your thoughts. Make sure you leave them down in the comments, and make sure you hit that subscribe button before you click out of the video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.